As far as smartphones are concerned, 2018 has started on a big bang in India. Especially the mid-range segment has been flooded with a flurry of new devices recently. The OPPO F7, the Vivo V9 and the Redmi Note 5 Pro are three smartphones that have been grabbing the headlines lately. And since we have all these phones in our office, and since you guys asked for an extensive camera comparison, we have one for you. Hi, I'm Ershad from Mr. Phone. Let's jump right into our camera comparison to find out which one comes out on top. And like one of our subscribers puts it, this one is going to be a triple threat. Before we jump into the comparison of these three phones, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to get notified about more such awesome tech videos. Let's talk about the specs first. The OPPO F7 comes with a 16 megapixel primary camera on the rear with an f/1.8 lens, the widest aperture of these three smartphones. The Vivo V9 has a dual camera setup on the rear with a 16 megapixel primary camera with an f/2.0 lens and a secondary 5 megapixel shooter. The Redmi Note 5 Pro also comes with two cameras on the rear. The primary camera has a 12 megapixel sensor attached to an f/2.2 lens and the secondary camera comes with a 5 megapixel sensor and an f/2.0 lens. Only the Vivo V9 can shoot 4K videos out of the box, but the Redmi Note 5 Pro's hardware supports 4K video recording and Xiaomi has promised an update in the future to enable the same. All the three cameras come with face detection autofocus, but the Redmi Note 5 Pro is the only phone with a dual LED flash on the rear compared to a single LED flash on the OPPO F7 and the Vivo V9. Talking about the front cameras, you get a 25 megapixel shooter with an f/2.0 lens on the OPPO F7, and in contrast you get a 24 megapixel camera with an f/2.0 lens on the Vivo V9. Both these smartphones also come with AR stickers and AI enabled selfie feature. The Redmi Note 5 Pro has a 20 megapixel front camera with an f/2.2 lens, and only the Redmi Note 5 Pro comes with a front flash module. In this generic shot of an office building, you can clearly see that the OPPO F7 and the Vivo V9 underexpose the green areas. In fact, the F7's shot looks like it was shot with HDR on, but that was definitely not the case. I think it's the software's over-enthusiastic artificial intelligence at work here, and it has decided in over-processing the image. In short, the Redmi Note 5 Pro's image, despite looking subdued, is the most natural one of the lot. This round we shall go with the Redmi Note 5 Pro. In this photo, unless you look very closely, I guarantee you won't be able to notice any big differences in the images captured by the OPPO F7 and the Redmi Note 5 Pro. Both the phones offer similar level of details overall. Also, the dynamic range and the contrast of the F7 and the Redmi Note 5 Pro's test samples are better when compared to the Vivo V9 shot. Here's the thing though. If you peer closely, you will notice that the Redmi Note 5 Pro has managed to focus even the leaves in the background. But this doesn't necessarily mean that it is a better picture. It is just a function of the aperture. The F7 opens up wide to f/1.8 to shoot the image, and therefore a few leaves are out of focus to portray a sense of depth. Overall, there is not much separating the three images, but if I had to pick a winner, it has to be the Redmi Note 5 Pro by a tiny margin. It really looks like F7's algorithm is working in reverse. In our HDR test, the non-HDR sample had boosted dynamic range, whereas the HDR image seemed to bring better control to the highlights of the shadows. But there is no doubt that the F7's image is the better looking shot of the three. It looks crisp, detailed and offers punchier colors. Exactly how the HDR mode should ideally perform on a smartphone. I'll pick the F7 in this round, but it's a bit of a subjective choice. Individual mileage may vary. The portrait mode is Redmi Note 5 Pro's forte, as we've learned from our extensive camera comparison with the iPhone 10 and the Pixel 2, links to which will be there in the I button on the top left corner. And the phone is once again in great form here. In our first portrait sample, you can see how the edge detection on the Redmi Note 5 Pro is exemplary. Xiaomi's algorithm is really at overdrive here. In the second image, there's not much separating the three shots, but that was expected considering there is a single subject in focus here. From the edge detection to the detail retention, you really cannot pinpoint any difference worth highlighting. But there is one thing that sets the V9 apart from the rest of the competitors, something that you might have seen Amir Khan peddling in his ads. The fact that you can actually change the focus post or pre-shooting the image. Basically what it does is the V9 allows you to change the aperture settings going as wide as f/0.95, and you can also change the focus to a different subject once you have shot the image. This is very similar to what some Huawei phones can do. However, overall in the end, I think in the portrait mode, the Redmi Note 5 Pro wins. The overprocessing problem seems to plague the OPPO F7 once again. Our 1080p sample video looks extremely unnatural here, and weirdly the OPPO captures mono audio and not stereo unlike the other two phones. Thanks to the presence of electronic image stabilization, the Redmi Note 5 Pro sample looks really good. Just because the V9 can shoot in 4K means it will offer more details, but the footage quality is nothing worth talking about. I'm tired of saying this, but the Redmi Note 5 Pro is our pick once again. This is where the tide changes finally. Thanks to the F7's f/1.8 aperture, it lets in more light, much more light. You can see that clearly in our sample. The F7 decides to boost the ISO, and as a result you get a better exposed image overall, and it also manages to reduce the noise using software algorithms. But as far as details are concerned, all the cameras are on par here. And the winner of this round for us is the OPPO F7. Using the portrait mode in low light is not advisable, but we tried it nonetheless and came away surprised with the F7 actually. Not only does it do edge detection well, it also illuminates the subject well. The other two phones struggle in this regard. In fact, the Redmi Note 5 Pro refused to take a portrait shot because the light was low. I didn't face any such problem on the F7 or the V9 though. Obviously, the F7 wins this round. The dual LED flash on the Redmi Note 5 Pro just decimates the competition here. Just look at the details in the image. Enough said. Do I have to even mention which phone wins this round? In a low light video sample, the F7 takes the lead with its well exposed footage and detailed resolution. And despite the fact that EIS reduces shakes induced by human hands, the Redmi Note 5 Pro's fault lies in focus hunting. The Vivo V9 is once again nowhere in the running. I will pick the F7 for its well exposed footage in this round, but I really hope there was EIS on the phone. Finally, the V9 emerges victorious in one round, and that's when we start off selfies. There is very little separating the three selfies. No, really, you will need a microscope to find the intricate differences. The color reproduction, the color tone, and the dynamic range are almost equal in all of our samples. However, when I looked closely, I noticed that the details on the shirt was well resolved by the V9's camera. That's what differentiates it from the rest. In the selfie portrait test, the F7 and the Redmi Note 5 Pro do a good job of retaining the color tone of my face and the spots on my face. The V9 selfie looks slightly dull and drab in comparison, which is a surprise. The Redmi Note 5 Pro's edge detection is better than the rest of the cameras because if you look closely, the tiles next to my right sleeves are in focus in the OPPO F7's selfie. It looks like the Redmi Note 5 Pro has truly emerged as the champion of portrait shots. In this indoor selfie shot of members from the Mr. Phone team, I think the Redmi Note 5 Pro sample comes out on top once again. This is primarily because when you do a 100% crop of the OPPO F7's image, you will notice a lot of noise. And the V9 tends to smudge the details, creating a watercolor effect. Most of the times, you will shoot selfies in dimly lit situations, like in a pub. I shot a selfie using the three phones in our office cellar. You can see that the OPPO F7 offers better exposure of the three, and the dynamic range is great too. In fact, even the skin tone and the details on my face are better resolved by the F7's front-facing camera. The Redmi Note 5 Pro selfie made my face look yellow, like I had a bout of jaundice or something, which I don't. And you know what? The V9 actually beautifies the face even when you're shooting in normal mode. This round goes to the OPPO F7, no surprises there. The Redmi Note 5 Pro's dedicated LED flash on the front camera comes in handy when taking pictures in extremely low light situations. This flash evenly lights up your face and preserves your skin tone as well. If I had to pick the second best, it would be OPPO F7 selfie. While we did test out the cameras, there are a few additional features that gives the OPPO F7 and the V9 a leg up. Both the F7 and the V9 come with the option of AR stickers. Ever use Snapchat? Well, these stickers are just like that. If you want to look like one of the Kardashian girls, this mode is perfect for you. Sorry, but I'm not going to dole out any bonus points for these stickers. Also, you obviously get beauty mode on all the three cameras. I think beauty mode is a bit of a controversial feature, just like, fairness creeps. So that's all I'm going to comment on that. It's there if you want to use it though. So what's our final verdict after doing all these tests? Well, there is very little separating the performance of the rear cameras on these three smartphones, except for the fact that the OPPO F7 actually captures better low light shots overall. However, I have to say this, the Redmi Note 5 Pro captures great details in daylight and it also has better dynamic range. Moreover, the fact that you get EIS with 4K video is definitely an advantage in favor of the Redmi Note 5 Pro. And let's not forget, the Redmi Note 5 Pro's portrait mode is lit AF. As far as the selfie cameras are concerned, there is nothing really separating the three cameras. You'll be happy with either one of the cameras. But the OPPO F7 definitely takes low light selfies better without the flash. Redmi Note 5 Pro takes better low light selfies with the flash, of course. Now we've come to the end of the comparison, but I can't really pick one winner from the three smartphones. But I have three solid observations to make. One, the Vivo V9 actually misses a beat or two when it comes to camera performance, except for in its portrait mode where you can actually change the focus pre or post shooting the image. Two, the OPPO F7 is definitely the better choice if you want to take low light shots. And 3, the Redmi Note 5 Pro's price is still a shocker when it comes to its camera performance. So guys, I hope you liked our extensive comparison of the three cameras. I'm Ershad from Mr. Phone once again, signing off. Tata.